see the path to the championship. I can see it.
Coca-Cola 600 belongs to Ryan Blaney.
Blaney's learned how to win over the last couple of months.
Blaney! Harmon! They spin behind him! It's going to be Blaney!
We're going to win this thing.
Ryan Blaney is going to win his way into the championship four.
You have to run a perfect race to get it.
Ryan Blaney is a NASCAR Cup Series champion!
What an unbelievable year. What an unbelievable playoffs for us.
This is the Team Blaney Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 134 of the Team Blaney Podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. As always, this podcast is brought to you by fans for fans. Steve and I have been following the drivers of the Blaney racing family for 2 decades, and Team Blaney itself launched on social media in 2014. Each weekly episode of the show offers an in-depth analysis of Ryan Blaney's latest NASCAR Cup Series race, plus news, notes, and special guest interviews all throughout the year. This week, we break down Team 12's run in the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway. Steve, welcome back. Fresh off this race at Phoenix and the champion's triumphant return to this conquering land. I don't know. I don't know what to describe it as, but it was really cool. We're able to share. They had, a bunch of championship banners and stuff around featuring Ryan. He has this huge display, showing him holding the trophy in the desert and that kind of stuff. And it just brought back, it hasn't been that long, but it brought back those memories and emotions and excitement. And as we talked about it on the show, they're headed to a track where the 12 cars run really, really well in the past. And all things considered this weekend, I think they performed really, really well again.
Yeah, it was learning experience for sure. Did this package actually help the racing? Not really. A lot of people are talking about, well, what's it going to look like at Richmond and Martinsville? Those are the kind of tracks that's really going to take effect. I think they tested this track just because the weather was the only, this was the only track they knew they could test at with the weather and everything would work out. But your favorite stat came up at the end of the race. That's the top 5.
That's true. Yep.
That's right. And another one.
Yeah, because the thing is last year, and I brought it up a lot last year, just being a little bit sad that the one downside to the championship year, if there could be one, is that statistically it wasn't necessarily his best statistic year in his career. He only had 8 top 5s in all of his championship season of 2023. But 4 races down in 2024, he's already clicked off 3 top 5s out of the gate. So if he just keeps this up, we're looking at career year numbers again. But I'll still take that championship over. But that's a silly top 5 statistic any day, I guess.
Well, here's the silliest statistic. We ran 4 races, and 3 of the 4 races have been won by 3 of the 4 guys from the championship 4 last year.
And one of them was lost by a championship 4 guy by 2 inches.
2 inches.
Or it would have been 4 for 4. So
4 for 4. So that's really good. But the 3 top 5s right off the bat, and really could have been 4 top 5s if we didn't have, whatever happened in the Daytona 500 that we'll not talk about anymore. So yeah, this is not a bad day. The thing about it is it progressed, like the whole weekend progressed. They had an hour practice on Friday. They got better as practice went on. Qualifying, they got better. After the qualifying run was over and we knew where he was placed, there was talk on the radio, and I think I've got a note or 2 about that, where they had made an improvement over practice. So whatever adjustments they were trying to build in for the race were there. So you knew that he was going to go forward as soon as when the race started.
So one thing I forgot to call you out on last week is the fact that you, Steve Mez, said you are very excited for practice. And I didn't even think about it in the moment, but you're like really looking forward to this practice on Friday. We can really get to see some things. And you are the anti-practice guy. So what's up with that?
Well, this one was because we wanted to see what was going to happen with this package. Any other time, I'll rely on Jonathan's notebook. They can go 20 minutes, go ahead and qualify, and I will rely on whatever Jonathan and Tony and those guys came up with in the shop, because as we've seen, no matter what happens, even the qualifying and the practice, when they drop the green flag, it's forward. And I just wanted to see what would happen with practice, not only for them, but for the 20 car, because That's all you heard about from the test, was that the Toyotas had figured something out and they looked stronger than anybody else at the test. And we don't know who tested what package at what point, at what time, and how many laps they ran and what they did with it. But it was just out there that the 20 and the Toyotas as a whole were going to run really well. And practice proved it. And then the race proved it too, until all the different varying strategies started to happen.
So you were looking forward to practice. They got the 50 minutes. How did things go?
Well, the first 2 minutes we didn't have a scanner, so I was a little bit miffed about that again. Get it together, NASCAR, but, about 5 or 6 laps in, he had jumped up to about 17th, but only 3/10 behind. The 22 car actually was one of the faster cars on track during the practice here. Jonathan says the pace is fine for the traffic they're in. They can keep working on it. 5 minutes in, though, they only ran about 10 laps and they came in. And this was going to be a thing. Same thing with even with the 20-minute practice. They run it out in practice if they think they've got what they need. But if they don't, they're going to come in. We're going to work on it. We're going to try something. So there was over a second of fall off within 20 laps on the tires. They came back out with the sticker tires, and the 31 actually spun out, causing a little bit of a red flag there. 25 minutes in, they came back out with the same tires. They were trying to run about 5 laps. A couple guys kind of gained on the main time. Now, a couple guys ran qualifying lap somewhere in there, and that's part of it too. And so when you see a certain thing on the board, there, it's going to be kind of
Misleading
a mirage, yeah, because it's you can look at it and go, oh yeah, he was fast, but did he come out and do a qualifying run compared to other people? We got a debris caution, about 30 minutes in. They come out 35 minutes in, they come back out and they do a long run to see which way the adjustment goes, whether it builds tight or builds loose. Ryan, of course, we noticed at this point has one of the in-car cameras for this weekend. And with a few minutes left, the 45 spun out. So they ran, I think it was about 54 laps. They ran total. They did a pit road run. But, overall, they were gaining on it. They were talking on the radios about how good the laps were compared to other guys with their fall offs. So, you can run good for 1 lap, but you're going to have to run 20 to 30 to 40 laps at some point during the race. And how do you do at that point? And it's always been a strong suit of Ryan's ability, is that he is really good at running consistent laps over a long period of time and not using up the tires to an extent where people come back to him. And we'll see this during the race too. Saturday, we get to the qualifying. Ryan goes out last in Group A, which Group A will end up being the outside lane. Group B will be the inside lane. The 4 car spins out his qualifying lap. Tim says he got in really deep and he had the left front on the apron. And this is cool because I had Tim on, and Tim's a little more talkative during the qualifying and stuff. And he was given like what the 23 did on his lap coming to the green. And then Jonathan says we're watching it on the data that they have on the computers and stuff. But Tim says, I just like to hear myself sometimes, like say it out loud, and like I said, the eye and the sky don't lie, so you can look at the computer, but sometimes the visual may be even a little bit better. So with 9 to go, Ryan does plug in and he starts asking Tim about some of these different people. Want to know how the 2 came to the green, what line the 17 had run. But Ryan ends up with the 27.202, and it's 2/10 off. The 11 car runs a 22.022, and all the way to the 9 car running a 27.137. So it's 11, 24, 43, 77, and the 9 are the fast 5 there. Tim says it was a good run. They lost a little bit in 2. Ryan says the changes we made will all be good for tomorrow. So, and then Joey ran a 27.309. So it kind of gives you an idea of, where they were. But like I said, what Tim says and what Ryan says at the end there, the changes will be good for tomorrow. That's the important thing. Is not the lap itself, but what's going to happen when they drop the green. The Group B Fast Five was the 34, the 45, the 14, the 54, and the 10. And then when they go for the pole, the 11 gets the pole. Which takes us into Sunday here. I'm sorry, Ryan was going to be starting 16th, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. So we get to Sunday here, green flag, and we'll be a little after 3:30 there. They're running stages of 60, 185, and 312, 9 sets of tires, a fuel run of 97 to 105 laps. And that's an interesting number because it gets tested in the third stage here. The 4, of course, going to the rear for his spin out there. Pit stall 36, which had the 4 in front of him, and he had an open slot behind him, which was always nice to have. Within the first couple of laps here, the green flag here, up to 16th, he passes the 1 car up to 15th. The 5th lap passes the 20 car up to 14th, and we get a lap 6 caution for the 2, the 3, and the 16. The 16 had spun out in front of the 2 and the 3. The 54 is the leader at that point. And Jonathan says, hey, most of the guys are going to stay out. So, they do stay out. The 54 takes the bottom. Ryan takes the bottom here in 14th. And they restart at lap 13. By lap 16, he's racing with the 99. At lap 17, it went low. He passed the 5 and the 10 up to 11th place. That was a pretty nice pass because he went down to the apron.
Yeah, really
cut
good
the
move.
dog leg, and then actually got in front of them by the time they got to 1 and 2. Lap 21, passing the 19 up to 10th. At lap 22, passes the 14 up to 9th. And Ryan's saying it's a little bit too free here. At lap 30, we're running the same lap times as the leader, the 54. At lap 40, passing the 77 up to 8th. At lap 43, about 1.404 back of the 34, and about 6.5 seconds back of the leader. At lap 52, he's kind of gotten the gap all the way down to about 5/10 now. At lap 59, he passed the 34, got to 7th here. The 45 is actually leading at this point, and the 45 wins the stage, and Ryan finishes 7th. So really, really interesting during this race. A lot of guys that were, having trouble passing, but Ryan would have trouble passing. But then once he got by somebody and got to the clean air because, he was being blocked more or less, he would just get rid of the guy behind him. Within 5 laps, he'd be a second ahead of him. So they were a lot faster as a whole than a lot of other guys out there.
I think it's just another example, and you saw this with the 20, you saw this with the 19, you saw this with several other guys. If you have a good car, we saw this at Martinsville with the 12 car. All the drivers are going to say it's hard to pass. They've been saying it's hard to pass for the last 10 years, even with the previous car. So I tend to not believe them completely. If you have a good car and a good enough setup, and one thing you saw with the in-car is the way that Ryan would set passes up too. If you have the skill, like there's a few times where in this race where he would use a lap car as a pick and would buy his time until like the perfect moment to get the car in front of him kind of stuck behind somebody and then make a move that way. So you can pass. I do feel like the passing was a little bit better with this package, but as Denny Hamlin said, just marginally better, not anything exciting. So just on one of those other times where you can say that they can pass, it's possible, but it can also get really, really frustrating if just the guy in front of you is all they're focused on is aero blocking, which sometimes they can't focus fully on that an entire race, but we see it a little bit later where it gets a little frustrating, but you can do it if you have a good enough car. And this brings me back to the qualifying. We didn't talk too much about it. I think we talked about it last week, but the thing that we saw kind of all last year that it's kind of differed from 2022 when the 12 cars sat on a bunch of poles, was starting up front all the time. It seems like I'm sure they want to get better at it. They want to be good at all facets of the sport here, but they haven't really been qualifying up front. But you see this every time they qualify in that, 10th to 15th, 16th range, and they just drive through everybody that maybe was a little bit more trimmed out in qualifying. So the qualifying does not concern me anymore. I think I might have even said it last week. I don't care about qualifying anymore until they start sitting on poles again. Then I'll think it's amazing. But at least for now, I'm not too worried about it because we see this time and time again with this team in the last year. They qualify where they qualify. They move up through the field, work on the car, and they get a great finish.
Yeah. Ryan says that he needs a little better drive off, tighter on entry and exit, so he like a heavy number. Tim says the 4 is going to be coming around, so stop short. And they're in 7th, out 6th on this pit stop. I'm going to adjust the NASCAR number. If you go to the NASCAR app, it says 9.977, but the actual stop is like 9.37. We kind of figured out that the NASCAR app times it a little bit differently. Jonathan gets on there and tells them the tires were all good on that run. So the 11 is the leader taking the bottom, Ryan taking the top here from 6th. They restart lap 68, and he sorts out the 6th here with the 11 leading. At lap 79, we're chasing the 24 with the 19 behind us. At lap 84, the 19 passes. We're in 7th here. Ryan says we're a little tighter here. Lost my turn. Lap 98, the 20 passes back to 8th here. He says we're not as well connected to the track at this point. At lap 100, we're about 15 to 20 from pit stops here. The 11 has 2-second lead on second place, the 45, and about a 6-second lead on third place, the 9. So he spread it out a little bit here. The 19, the 54, the 20 are all right in front of Ryan at this point, like in a grouping. So he can see them. Just got to get to them. Lap 105 here. The top 3 lap times on the track. So there are a bunch of different times that this comes over the radio that we're one of the fastest cars. At lap 115, we're pitting here. We start the cycle basically. We're one of the first guys in. With the tire fall off being over a second, this is actually a pretty good move because you might gain a second or 2 on the track here. In 8th, and then comes out when the cycle completes, should be about 7th here. Lap 125, the 45 and the 11 are battling for what could end up being the lead when the cycle ends. This cycle takes a while. A lot of guys stay out and try to gamble on a caution happening. Lap 130, we passed the 16, which up to 10th here. 3 guys still need to pit at this point. And lap 135, we passed the 77 up to 9th. There's some lap traffic in the way. Lap 138, passing the 47 up to 8th. These are guys that still haven't pitted yet. Brian says they got no front turn here. Lap 150, the 38 car still hasn't pitted yet, and he's in 5th. Lap 160 here, we passed the 9 up to 7th. Lap 161, passing the 38 up to 6th here. And lap 168 there, Tim says we're second best lap time on the track, and the 45 is leading. We get to lap 172. We passed the 8 car, who was a lap down, got into some clean air finally, and lap 180, the fastest car on the track. And the 20 takes the lead at this point. Lap 185, the 20 wins the stage, and Ryan is 6th. So we've played completed 2 stages here, and we got stage points in both stages. Pretty good so far. Ryan says it fired off tight. After the green flag stopped, they lost some front turn. And Jonathan says we're going to go back a little bit on the first adjustment and see how that goes. And then he has an option of something to do off of that if it doesn't work right. But the top Ford out there. Ryan also.
Sorry, I was really curious too, and I mentioned this to the folks in our kind of Discord race chat. I wonder what all the other drivers are saying, because all race long on the radio, every time Ryan's asked about the car, he says, no front turn, I have no turn. And then there's a point when he says that, and then he says, now don't get me wrong, I'm really loose. So it's just like, and I said, that's kind of a predicament to be in, where you don't have any front turn because you're super tight, but then you're also really loose. And I was like, so hopefully they can figure this one out.
Yeah, I don't know if I have that in the notes later on, but he did kind of over accentuate what he said, and he kind of like hurried up and backed it up so that Jonathan didn't make the wrong adjustment, basically. He also notes at this point that the cool suit isn't working, so that's not good. Hitting 6th, out 5th here. Jonathan says the last 20 laps or so, they were fast as anybody there. This pit stop was a 9.778. The leader of the 11 takes the bottom. Ryan from 5th takes the bottom. And so they beat the 19 and the 20 in that stop, and the 9 beat us. I just kind of took a note of kind of how it flipped. So he beat 2 cars out.
Yep.
And this is when
Yeah,
the 20
just
had
shuffled a little
this,
bit, but yeah.
this is when the 20 had its issue on pit road. And but the 9 car actually had a better pit stop there. Restarting at lap 195, we passed the 9 up to fourth here, and we had caution at lap 197 for the 8 car. And we're in fourth, and we're staying out at this point. And the 11 takes the bottom. Ryan from fourth takes the top. The restart lap 203, and he passes on the outside on this restart. It's just blows him away all the way up to third. And lap 204, we're battling 11 for second, and the 45 is leading. So if nothing goofy happens from this point forward, it's going to be beautiful. But we get a caution at lap 204 for that incident with the 22, the 7, the 71, the 42, the 16 all end up being involved. And it just basically looks like Joey got punted.
Yeah, 42 just didn't. When he came over the radio and just said, "My bad."
Yeah,
that was unfortunate. Bad day for the teammates. The 2 gets taken out almost immediately, and then the 22 a little bit later on. And now I mentioned that qualifying wasn't important. That's as long as you qualify around the top 15 range, because where the 2 and 22, who actually were faster than Ryan in practice, which he said may have been affected by guys running qualifying laps in practice, but they qualified back of the field. And you know what happens back there sometimes, it gets a little messed up. And unfortunately for them, they that was, man, they had 42 just kind of drove right through the guy. So that was unfortunate.
Okay, so we get right here. We may be close to the fuel window. We're not sure here. And Jonathan actually says we're short of the fuel window. So, excuse me. What he does is he tells him if the one of the 2 cars in front of him come in, then come with them. And then, he's following the 45 and the 11. They both stayed out. He stayed out. Now, this is the point in time where Chastain, Busher, Gilliland, Briscoe, Hocevar, Byron, Stenhouse Jr. all pit. And Chastain actually wins that race off pit road. And this becomes important only because of what happens in a couple laps here, because this splits the field a little bit. We get some guys that are going to be in the back, and then they're going to end up in the front here pretty soon. We restart lap 213, and on this restart, for some reason, this restart didn't go very well. Not really exactly sure what happened, if he got nudged or somebody hit him and took him and spun him out or something a little bit, but the 19 came around him. All of a sudden, he's back to about 9th here. But then we get a caution at lap 214 for the 11 car. We were up to 8. So the 11 spins out, and this just causes basically what just flipped this whole race around and kind of screwed everything up. And I say that because now we got a pit sequence where everybody has to pit. And, well, not everybody. Everybody who just pitted, now they've gained the fact that there's caution laps. So they're going to be able to make it to the end on fuel, most of them, except for, the 19 who stays out. And then, we get... everybody else pits basically, except those ones I named earlier. And you get Ty Gibbs winning the race off pit road. Stenhouse, Gibbs, Wallace, and Keselowski. And Larson, they only take 2 tires here. So that helps them. A couple of them actually end up passing Ryan basically on a 2-tire strategy on pit road, because the pit stop was only about a 10.5. So it was a little bit longer than the normal one on 4 tires, but he really didn't get past because of the pit stop here. He got past because we do have some 2-tire strategies here. Saw
a little bit of that chatter eking back in about the pit crew this week, and I was like, man, they were on fire all day long. I mean, the majority of that last stop was because of a strategy difference. A strategy
call, yeah. It wasn't the pit stop. Like I said, may have been a little hairy. But I think it was 10-4 something really, but. We've got all those guys who took a 2-tire strategy here, and it moved them ahead off pit road, but it also did is changed everything with, you got the other cars that stayed out, who pitted in that last sequence only a couple laps earlier, and now we all go to the end. And on this, let's see here, restart here, Jonathan said something, but he did something to help with the fire off. They were a little bit tight. Ryan restarts 19th, and the 19 car stayed out. He's trying to do something that he's not going to be able to make it on fuel, but he was kind of hoping for something goofy to happen where they get later in the race and he can come and get tires and so forth. Tim says something about there. Don't worry, there's probably going to be another yellow shortly. But what's interesting is Ryan starts 19th on this restart. The 20 car, I believe, started 21st. Okay, just to kind of let you know, some of the faster cars were in the back because of this whole thing. But we restart lap 220 here. By 224, we're up to 15th. By 226, past the 47, up to 14th. By let's see here, 220, by 230, up to 12th. Battling the 5 car hard here. Lap 240, we're chasing the 99 car. At lap 257, working on both the 99 and the 11. By lap 262, we passed the 99. It's 13th. By lap 271, past the 10 car up to 12th. The 19 now finally goes ahead and pits. The 41 also pits. He had stayed out. The 20 is now the leader. So in all that time, he had worked his way through up the field and gotten to the lead. At lap 276, we passed the 38 up to 9th. At lap 286, past the 14 up to 8th. At lap 296, past the 45 up to 7th. At lap 299, past the 34 up to 6th. And now we've only got about 10, 11, 12 laps left. And we're right behind our favorite car, the 1 car. And on the final lap, at the line, I think he passed him. Yeah, I think he passed him. I think he originally passed him on the backstretch, but then going into 3 and 4, Chastain made a move in 3 and 4, but he couldn't hold the move he made. And Ryan come right up underneath them, and right at the line, we get a 5th place finish. 20 car did win. He was the dominant car, and he did carve his way up through the field pretty good. Like I said, Ryan, when he would get stuck behind somebody, he'd be stuck for a little bit. But once he got by them, the 99 car, he was behind for a number of laps.
Felt like an eternity. Our amigo was not our amigo this week.
over 20 some laps I've got here that he was behind him. And once he got by him, he blew him away. He was 2 seconds ahead of him within a couple laps. So he just needed to get around people. Once he got around people, he was in good shape. The 20 car just did a better job of getting around everybody. The other guys in the top 4 or 5 there, I mean, you're going to cite the 6 car and the 17 car. They got there on strategy, and they were able to hang on to the track position they had on that strategy. But I think the best for the day was still the guy who finished 5th.
Now, this finish reminded me of that Richmond race where Ryan was trying to pass the 3 at the end to get his first. I think it was like his first top 10 at Richmond.
Top
ever.
10 at Richmond, yeah.
And I remember being pumped watching the in-car camera for that, and then him getting him on the last lap. So there's a couple reasons why this was important. One, they do care about the difference between a top 5 and a top 10 finish. Mm-hmm. And then 2, you had all the chatter from last week, from Ross, talking about being proud of Ryan for learning how to aero block and all that stuff. So I'm sure there was a lot going into that I'm sure Ryan in the car, was a little bit pumped about making that pass. So, talking about the in-car camera, I know it's kind of an in-car camera evangelist last week, and I'll say it again. I want your thoughts though. It's great for TV, I guess, especially when Ryan has an actual featured camera with multiple angles and that kind of stuff. But I can say after watching, the whole Las Vegas race and talking about how great I thought the angle was, and it was always out front, I was a little bit frustrated. And you've said this before about some of the camera angle choices at certain times. And I'm like, I just want to see where he's going, how close he is to the guy in front. But
it's the director, whoever they have a director of that car, camera, or whatever, picking the views. And it's so funny is sometimes the TV will show a certain view that they're not showing on the in-car down below.
Yeah.
So I don't quite understand how that works. But other times they're showing me who's following him, and it's like, forget who's following him.
Exactly.
He's dusting that guy. That guy be gone in 2 laps from now. Give me the guy that's in front of him so we can see how he's tracking him down. So yeah, kind of at the mercy of that person, whoever it is. And I know they're trying to have it ready in case they jump to it during the broadcast. But
yeah,
for the most part, they wasted some time. That
I get it. It's cool. I'm glad that he gets a featured one every once in a while, but
yeah,
I was just, so used to being able to see the out front view. So again, if you have any opportunities, you can watch the cameras for free. There'll just be some commercials, but if you do pay the upgrade fee, no commercials. And it's it's really weird now that I've been watching it that way almost exclusively. I feel like you where I'm like, I don't even know what the broadcast said most of the time because I have my my earpiece in and then I'm watching the camera. So I'll have to see. Maybe I'll have to strip that away one time and see if I enjoy the race experience more
Mm.
without it. But I don't think so. I think we had a
No,
really
this
good
week,
time. So
this week, don't do it this week because you'll have to fill in the blanks for me this week.
that's true. So another top five finish. That was the sixth straight top five finish for Ryan Blaney at Phoenix. Eighth straight top 10. Just incredible numbers there. He still hasn't been able to break through and get that victory yet, but there is always that opportunity in the fall, and hopefully it happens when he's in the championship four and gets a back-to-back championship by winning that race. So I was a little nervous going into this race because of the package change, because of how good he's been there, historically in the old package. But then I was reminded, and I think I even said it, maybe leading into it last week, that no matter what car he's been in, the last generation car, the next gen car, this package, whatever package, sometimes a driver is just really good at a racetrack, like Eric Jones at Darlington. Ryan is good at Phoenix. I mean, he maybe hasn't won there yet, but he's been in the conversation, the last 8 races. So it's just a really impressive run that he has there. So on the teardown, Jordan Bianchi, who is really famous the last several years for kind of breaking news and things, kind of just threw out there that the chatter that he's hearing is that this is the last year for the championship race of Phoenix, and he thinks it's going to head back to Homestead, which excites me very much because that means I can go and see a championship race in person again by just taking a few hour drive. So that's cool. But then I'm like, man, Penske and Ryan has been really good at Phoenix. So if he's in the championship four, which track do I want it to be at? So do you have any quick thoughts on that, or whether you think it should stay in Phoenix? You think it should go elsewhere? I think it'd be really cool to come back to Homestead. The only thing I don't think they're going to get at Homestead is sold out crowds that they've been getting at Phoenix, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's got to move somewhere warm, right? I mean, that time of year, it's kind of tough to have it up in the north anywhere, but yeah, as far as crowds and so forth, yeah, a mile and a half is going to work out the best. Although, Atlanta wouldn't be bad either, but boy, that's boy, you talk about
It'd be insane.
Yeah, I mean, talk about taking it out of the driver's hands. A mile and a half, though, is where you really want it to be, because you want to see, how good the program is, how good the driver is. So yeah, I'm not guaranteeing, but if they're going to make the move, it'll probably be back to Homestead. So yeah, I'm fine with it. Phoenix really, although don't get me wrong, I love the fact that the 12 team, is so good at Phoenix.
Yeah.
And, love to have that opportunity, but we'll get that one done this year. And then next year, try something different,
Yeah. And they did a great run at Homestead. He had a chance there on the closing laps. He was in the conversation for the win there too. It just kind of slipped away a little bit. So the big headline,
when he got hit from the 5 by the 5 car, that kind of hurt things too,
just a little bit. Thank gosh he survived that though.
Mm-hmm.
So the big headline we haven't really talked about after this race at Phoenix is the fact that Ryan Blaney, once again, is your NASCAR Cup Series points leader 4 races into the season. He is now holding a 10-point margin over second place Kyle Larson, who's tied with third place Martin Truex Jr. Fourth is Byron. Fifth is Reddick. Sixth is Ty Gibbs. Seventh is Ross Chastain. Eighth, Denny Hamlin. Ninth, Chase Elliott. And 10th is Daniel Suarez, 37 points back of Ryan Blaney, your leader. So what do you think about that? Leading the points again, it kind of reminds me of 2022 a little bit. I don't know that really 2023, he really led the points very much. He was kind of up there at certain points of the season, but
last year, yeah, he did right after 2 weeks after he won the 600. He was the
that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
It did not last long, unfortunately, though. But heck of a run they're on right now.
If you're going to win win the regular season, that's awesome. I mean, it doesn't mean anything except one thing, and that's that I believe it's 15 playoff points they give you. So it's almost like winning 3 races. So win a race or 2 and then win the regular season. That'd be great. Have that nice points buffer every round.
So let's talk about a different kind of points now that we're moving on from the race at Phoenix Raceway, at least the race recap, but we do need to recap Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League, and I thought I had myself an all-star lineup of drivers, which I feel like a lot of people did. And I made one little move at the end of stage, or right before the end of stage 2, that, if I had not done that, or if I done things a little bit differently, maybe I would have had about 8 or 9 more points. But let's take a look at my 15th place finishing Team Blaney host Adam team here. Starters were Kyle Larson, got me 23 points. Ryan Blaney got me 41. Christopher Bell, the winner, got me 50. William Byron, 31. Ty Gibbs, 43. And I had Ross Chastain in the garage, so I left 31 points there. So if I would have just maybe swapped Chastain and for Larson, what I had done was I swapped Gibbs and Chastain. So I don't know. I guess I wasn't really thinking at the time. I maybe just assumed that the 5 was going to make his way back to the front again, but he never really did. So that's unfortunate. I did do extremely well in the featured matchups, though. Picked Blaney over Chastain. That was right. That was right at the line. I picked Hamlin over Elliott. That was right. I picked Bell over Busch. That was right. And I picked Gibbs over Bowman. So I thought for sure I was going to be a lock, at least for the top 10. And then I go in there and I'm like, man, I bet everybody just had really, really similar lineup. So 15th points, or 15th place for me, 228 points earned.
Yeah, the top 10 was pretty tight. I had Ryan, I had Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Truex, Bell, and Chastain in the garage. And actually, I had Chastain in the lineup and Truex in the garage until before the end of stage 2. I decided to check. And I was like, you know what? At that point, Chastain was way back there, and Truex was still where he, pretty much in the mix. So I made that move and really actually gained me 6 points. So it actually worked out. There's only one guy that scored less than Chastain in my lineup, and that's Chase Elliott with 28. So did pretty good there. And then I had 3 of the 4 matchups. The only one I did not have was Chase Elliott. Denny Hamlin beat him by 8 spots there. So that was the only guy I didn't have. So I did pretty good myself.
Let's take a look at the top 10 in points earned for the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League at the race at Phoenix Raceway. It kicks off with a 3-way tie for 8th with Alyssa C., you, Mez 12, and Penske Fan 24, all tied for 8th with 232 points earned. 7th, the Dalai Lama 4, 233. 6th is Blaney's Daisy, 234. 5th is US Calvin, 235. 4th is Factory of Sadness 6, 239. A tie for 2nd here between Frank Fan 12 and Dr. Race Chaser. I really think Dr. Race Chaser has come on strong, and they might be somebody we're going to have to watch all year long. Consistently is showing up here in and around the top 10. So they're tied for 2nd, 247. And first position, Blaney kicks 262 points earned. So they actually had pulled away from the field a little bit there. So pretty impressive for them. So Blaney kicks wins the weekend at Phoenix. Let's take a look at the overall standings. I sit in the 44th position. Team Blaney host Adam, 655 points earned. You are in the 32nd position, 669 points earned. Top 10, Sam Speedsters in 10th, 721. 9th is Frank Fan 12, 722. 8th is US Calvin, 725. Blaney kicks in 7th with 729. 0 Schlitz given 739 points in the 6th position. In 5th, we have Alyssa C, 747. 4th, Dr. Race Chaser, 766. 3rd, Factory of Sadness 6 is 768. 2nd, Blaneyac 10, 770 points. And leading the way right now in the overall standings for the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League is Penske Fan 24, 773 points. And that brings us now to this weekend's race in the NASCAR on TV report for Bristol Motor Speedway. Things kick off on Saturday, March 16th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You have the NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying at Bristol on FS1. Followed at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Weather Guard Truck Race on FS1. Sunday, March 17th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the NASCAR Cup Series Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway on Fox. And it seems like Bristol's having a little bit of like their own version of like a throwback week. I've seen some more, and it's not like throwback to like the 70s. This is more like throwback to the late 80s, early 90s. So I've seen some cool stuff. I think you guys might be heading down there, so you might see some of that in the activations that they have at the racetrack. So headed to Bristol. let's take a look at Ryan Blaney's statistics there. 14 career starts, 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s, an average start of an 8.9, average finish of 19.7, 2 DNFs. So this is his statistics on Bristol concrete. So worth noting that the last 3 years, this has been a Bristol dirt race. They didn't bring the dirt trucks in. They didn't cover it over. So we're back to concrete in the spring. You're going to be there. We'll see. We'll see what the crowd reaction is, what the attendance is, what the TV ratings are. And though they did tweak the short track package at Phoenix, that does not apply to the race at Bristol. So we'll see what the racing is. This is going to be a day race versus a night race that they've had, on concrete the last several years with the fall night race. So what are your expectations for this weekend as you head to the mountains there?
I just hope to stay away from a lot of Irish people on Sunday.
That is true. It might get a little
That-
interesting, especially in the campgrounds.
That might be the dangerous part of the day, is that not that anybody needs an extra excuse, but it is St. Patrick's Day on Sunday. So actually be kind of cool to see if anybody does some green paint schemes, even though green is not considered a very lucky color for racing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This has always been a fun race. Ryan does really, really well there, except for the DNFs that you talk about there, because for some reason, with all the chaos that goes on, he is really, really good at getting around a lot of it and operating, whether it's the high line, the low line, diamond in the corner, whatever he needs to do. So I can't wait to see, what they do with that. I think everything is practice qualifying is Saturday, and then the race Sunday should be a lot of fun, as long as the weather cooperates too.
He's still waiting for that elusive sword trophy, because Ryan has a win in the Xfinity Series. He has a win in the Truck Series at Bristol. Both of them were fantastic victories, by the way. But they came before they started giving out the sword. The one fun thing that Ryan also has at Bristol, he does have a win as a spotter. He was the spotter for Joey Logano in the spring truck race last year that was on dirt. So he's won as a spotter. He's won in a truck. He's won in an Xfinity car. He still needs to click off that victory in a cup car. And what do you think? What do you think the odds are of that happening? I mean, I feel like they've hit this groove where they're definitely, top 10, top 15 lock kind of a team. So I think they just need to get over that hump and get to victory lane at Bristol.
Yeah, this is just a matter of staying out of people's trouble and running your race. And I think they'll be in pretty good shape. There's the package is not the same as the package we saw last weekend. I saw some people confused, like, oh, it's another short track. No, Dover and Bristol, they consider something totally different. So with the high banking and so forth. So, this will be interesting to see how we do this thing with the new body styles and so forth. If there's going to be a lot of adjustment or not, but we know that he's pretty bad fast there. And like I said, hopefully we, stay out of other people's trouble and be up near the front, near the end.
The other point of confusion that I don't understand how it's there, especially after as much as we saw it talked about last year and we saw it used in race conditions, are the wet weather tires. So they had done some testing. They decided they do want to bring the wet weather tires over to Bristol. And poor Bob Pockris always has to be the one that has to explain everything to everybody. And he's getting peppered with he made a post about them bringing kind of that package to the track, and then had to reiterate to a couple people that no, that does not mean they're going to race in the rain. So then you just see the comment sections. Oh, they're wasted millions of dollars on all this testing when they're not even going to use them. They're only going to run them on pace laps. And it's like, if you watched the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, you saw a really great heat race where they did use them. It rained. They dried the track enough to where it was damp. They threw on the wet weather tires, and they were able to get going, about a half hour to an hour earlier than they would have been if they waited till the track was dry completely. So I hope at some point the fan base fully understands the purpose of this and what they do, and that the fact that they're not going to run an oval race as of now, even on a short track, in the rain. So they are wet weather tires. They aren't rain tires. Yes, on a road course, they'll run in, a light rain, but, we're not going to run Bristol in a downpour. So poor Bob, but thanks to him for always having to to explain that. I'm hoping at some point people understand, but when are the comment section ever positive? So I guess I shouldn't expect too much. So again, if you want to catch this weekend's action, it starts Saturday, March 16th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, the NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying session at Bristol on FS1. Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Cup Series, Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. That is on Fox. One last thing, guys to watch. Who you going to put in your fantasy lineup this weekend, except for your lock of a starter, which is Ryan Blaney every single time? Anybody else that you're looking at?
Well, the guy who won it in the fall, Denny's going to do it again here with, he looked how good he looked this past weekend, and I look for him to just duplicate that again this weekend. He's probably the guy to beat. Bell now has one under his belt, and the Toyotas, look strong as a whole. I mean, there were portions of the race last weekend where 5 or 6 Toyotas were in the top 8, not even top 10, like 8. So just look for the Gibbs cars to be somewhere up there. Ryan, it seems to be the only Ford that really runs well. Even though the 6 and the 17 actually were good here a couple of years ago. So, they could be. They were good 2 years ago, I think, in the fall. So you could see those guys up there too. Those are just some thoughts and ideas. Once again, I always wait to see what happens with practice, especially too.
Yeah, so I'm going to look back just real quick. The last several concrete races at Bristol will go back to 2020. Your winners are Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, who's going to be calling it from the booth, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, and as you mentioned in the fall last year, Denny Hamlin. So, Buescher had a great run this past week. The 6, maybe this is the place. He led a ton of laps in that race that Buescher won, and Hamlin's always, historically has, I think, multiple wins there as well. So maybe this is finally the time. We've been waiting for Brad to pick up a victory. He has not won a race since he left Team Penske. He's been close multiple times. He watched his own, employee and, teammate win 4 races since he's been over there at RFK. So maybe it's Brad's time, if it can't be the 12 teams' time, to finally break through and enter victory lane at Bristol. So I think that wraps up most of the show when it comes to all of our recaps and previews of the week. But I did want to mention, since this came out this week, we have some details on the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation's fundraiser for 2024. The last couple of years, they've done a Top Golf event. This year, they've caught the new trend in sports, which is pickleball. It's kind of like tennis, but on a small court with a paddle that maybe reminds you a little bit of a ping pong paddle, but a little bit bigger scale, big yellow ball with holes in it. And it's kind of the sport that's sweeping the nation. Tons of celebrities have picked up on it. They even have a professional league now too, that has like teams forming all around the country. So for 2024, we're going to have the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation Pickle for a Purpose fundraising tournament. That's going to happen Tuesday, May 21st at Rally Pickleball on Southside Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's going to be the week that's between the All-Star race and the Coca-Cola 600. So if you're already in town for that week for the 600 on Tuesday night, you can go and check this out. Prices, they have some, tickets that you can get for spectators that start at $300. If you want to form a 2-person team, it looks like it's about $2,000, and it goes up from there as the teams keep getting more and more. So as of now, they say if the weather's great, it's going to be a 2-person team. So you can check out more information on this on the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation social media sites. They have they have a link there you can click. We've shared it on all of our social media as well, if you want to check that out. But it's a cool event, and we're trying to have some folks on soon that will be able to give us a little bit more information, right, Steve?
Yeah, in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a special guest who will be able to give us the whole inside scoop and skinny on on how the event's going to go. It's a great cause always. The foundation does a great job of having a great event. Even the spectator stuff, if you read up on the page there, what it involves, it's not just it's actually a pretty good spread, the food and drink and kind of a VIP experience, basically, getting to meet the celebrities that'll be there for the event. So, and then spectate, be able to watch some of this great action, if you've never played. And then for those who are serious about playing, it's really kind of cool too. They got a nice setup where from what I read, by the end of it, if you're playing pretty well, you might be able to get to play against one of the celebrity teams. So something worth trying out too.
Yeah, if this is something that you're active in right now and you're good at, the way they have this set up, as Steve was saying, there's kind of a bracket for, I don't want to call it the normal people, but the non-celebrities, then have a more of a celebrity bracket. And yeah, you could have a chance if you make your way up through the tournament. You could be playing. I can't guarantee that Ryan's going to be on one of the winning teams, but you could be facing off against the Ryan Blaney in this pickleball tournament, and that'd be really, really awesome to experience. So if you're serious about pickleball, check out the links on our social media, on the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation social media, and we'll get you more details as they come. But for now, I want to thank you everyone once again for tuning into this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. You can interact with us on Facebook and X at Team Blaney, and on Instagram and TikTok at team.blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the aforementioned Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or follow them on any of their social media channels. So, for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Brussels and Netherlands. Check out the TikTok.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.